So finally, this is the part where Yuhao is going to avenge Wang Chuer. And along with that, I'm making a big announcement that I am not dropping this Soul Land 2 series at all, and I'm going to wrap it up in just the next 15 videos. And it's also possible that some days I'll upload 2 videos in a single day. And if you're ready to witness all of that, then attention please, because things are about to get incredibly exciting from here on out. So with this grand announcement, let's get this video started. But before we move forward, let's do a quick recap of what happened in the last part. In the last part, we see the secret of Shu Sanxi's family background finally get revealed, and we find out that Shu Sanxi is the next king of the Dueling Empire. And on the other side, Yuhao and Wutong keep attacking both legions and taking out their soldiers. And now moving forward in this episode, we see that Yuhao's Class 9 decomposition cannon has literally vaporized another soul engineer right in the air. And seeing this, the hearts of both legion commanders Xuancheng and Zushin sink completely, after which both commanders get together and decide that flying while staying in formation is no longer possible, so they decide to land in a forest and set up camp in a compact formation. And up above, in the sky, Yuhao and Tang Wutong are observing all of this. And Tang Wutong asks that one attack scared them so badly, they came down to the ground. And won't their barrier be stronger now in a compact formation? To which Yuhao says, yes, the decomposition cannon might not be able to penetrate their barrier anymore and might not kill anyone through. And he tells Tang Wutong that he already had a sense of what they would do. They're going to set a trap and try to bait them in. So Tang Wutong says, then it's simple. We just ignore the bait and never appear in front of them. And Yuhao smiles and says, no, we're going to take their bait. In fact, we're going to take it with everything we've got and shatter every single hope they have left. So come on, let's get the preparations done first. After which, Yuhao whispers something in Tang Wutong's ear, and a very strange expression appears on her face, and she says, you're truly awful. And saying this, both of them descend into the forest. After which, down below, both legions are resting in a disciplined manner. The Evil Eye Tyrant Legion is resting first, while the Imperial Dragon Legion guards them. And 2 hours later, the Evil Eye Tyrant Legion's soul power is basically recovered, and the commander's confidence rises a little because there's been no attack for quite a while now. And Zushin is inwardly starting to think that maybe he was right that the decomposition cannon can only fire once a day. But Xuancheng isn't sitting back comfortably cultivating, he stays alert. Because he knows that an enemy this patient and this powerful isn't going to give up this easily. After which, right then, a soul engineer reports that a surveillance soul tool has detected something, and a large number of enemies are approaching from the ground in every direction and surrounding them from all sides. Hearing this, Xuancheng immediately goes on high alert and starts wondering whether these are Dueling Empire reinforcements. But he decides that there's no need to fear Dueling Empire soldiers, because their soul masters and soul engineers simply can't hold up against a linked defense. After which, he gives the order that everyone gets ready for battle. And the moment the enemies finally come into view, the breath of every single person in both legions catches, because what's coming isn't humans, but massive skeletal structures carrying bone knives, and they're green-colored zombies leaping forward with a foul liquid dripping from their bodies, and some of them are completely headless knights. And because of all this, a dense and overwhelming aura of death is pressing in from every direction, and these are actually the spectral creatures from Yuhao's spectral demiplane that he has unleashed. And seeing this, both Zhuqian and Xuancheng's eyes go wide for a moment. And then Zushin suddenly goes red with rage and shouts that now he understands these are all Holy Ghost Church evil soul masters attacking them. I said it back then that Zhu Tianren should never have formed an alliance with them, and who else would have spectral creatures like this? These people want to finish us here in the Dueling Empire, so no witnesses are left. And the funny thing here is that both Zuqian and Xuancheng are completely convinced this is the Holy Ghost Church's doing. And even a vice commander goes as far as saying that Class 9 decomposition cannon must also belong to the Holy Ghost Church, because where would the Dueling Empire get weapons like that? While the reality is that Yuhao is sitting a few kilometers away, comfortably watching all of this unfold. After which Xuancheng says, whatever the case may be, fighting is necessary right now. So Zushin says, today we use every trump card we have to guarantee survival, and when we go back, we'll teach the Holy Ghost Church a lesson. After which, both vice commanders declare in unison that when they return, they'll show them what hell looks like. And then both legions unleash their full firepower, and soul rays, soul cannons, everything starts firing simultaneously. After which, waves of spectral creatures keep getting blasted one after another. Their bones, organs, and everything scatter in every direction, and the soul engineers are getting the satisfaction they've been craving this whole time. And up in the sky, Yuhao and Tang Wutong watch this and feel mildly impressed because beast-ranked Legion firepower is truly overwhelming. Even the Abomination, which is the physically strongest creature in the Spectral Demiplane, can't hold its ground against their attacks. After which, Yuhao explains that the creatures of the Spectral Demiplane don't die permanently. When they fall, their spirit fire returns to the Demiplane, and a new body regenerates there, so sending these creatures costs him practically nothing. After which, a little while later, all the visible spectral creatures have been destroyed, and a moment of silence falls, And Xuancheng looks at the surveillance soul tool and says, "Don't drop your guard. The enemy is still out there. They've just pulled back a little." And both commanders think that the evil soul masters are getting tired because sustaining this many spectral creatures takes a huge amount of energy and they'll be exhausted soon and then it'll be their turn. And this thought gives both of them a little relief. But what they don't know is that the deaths of spectral creatures don't affect Yuhao at all. After which Zushin thinks about his trump cards. And here's something genuinely surprising. The Imperial Dragon Soul Engineer Legion actually has more Class 9 stationary soul cannon shells than any other legion in the Sun Moon Empire. And these aren't officially allocated shells, but ones that Zushin and the royal family secretly accumulated by trading rare metals. And even Zhu Tianren himself doesn't know the full extent of this secret. And these shells are so important to the royal family because their belief is that whoever controls the Imperial Dragon Legion controls the Sun Moon Empire. And since Zushin is a deeply power-hungry individual, he decides today is the day to bring them all. After which, up above, Yuhao tells Tang Wutong what his real plan actually is, and he pulls out a soul tool from his storage ring that makes Tang Wutong's eyes go wide, and this is the Star Sky Douluo's Sun Moon Divine Needle that he obtained somewhere. And with his current ability, he can actually fully operate it, but he thinks for a moment and then puts it back. Because using the Sun Moon Divine Needle would reveal his identity, and he's the only other known user of this weapon which Yi Yulin already knows about, so he decides that using it right now isn't a good idea. And down below, the soul engineers are still riding the high of battle and running their soul tools. And Yuhao is observing from above that after the spectral creatures die, their spirit fires are returning to the demoplane. And watching this, a new realization hits him that the spirit fires Electrolux created carry light-type energy, which means even a purification ability like Yigui's can't permanently destroy them, meaning his spectral army is truly limitless, after which both commanders are feeling confident that they can hold on and are waiting for Yuhao's next move. After which Yuhao pauses the spectral army for a little while, and then quietly begins incantations that cause a dense grayish fog to spread throughout the entire forest. And from that fog, the bodies of the previously destroyed spectral creatures start rising from the ground and come back to attack as skeletons and vampires. And when the soul engineers see this, several of them mentally break because these creatures simply will not stay dead. And the psychological pressure becomes so intense that without any order, soul engineers start firing at full power on their own. To which Xuancheng gives the order to stop, but it's as if everyone's off switch is jammed and nobody stops. And for 5 full minutes, the attack keeps going until there are no spectral creatures left in front of them, and everyone stops from exhaustion. And right then, a surveillance operator nervously announces that there are still a massive number of spectral creatures outside. And Xuancheng rushes to silence him, but the poor guy has already said it. After which Yuhao calls the spectral army back and begins his real move, and starts slowly creating ice using his ultra ice soul power in a way that makes it look like it's naturally falling from above, and the snow is so gentle that the soul engineers think Dueling Empire's weather is just turning bad. And before anyone notices, a thick layer of snow has built up all around the camp, sticking to the barrier and slowly converting into ice. And seeing this, Xuancheng says what strange weather this Dueling Empire has, and why is it suddenly snowing? And what they don't know is that the snow falling isn't the weather's doing, but Yuhao's, and he's quietly standing outside doing his. After which Yuhao brings his body temperature down to match the outside air so no thermal detector can pick him up, and quietly moves close to that ice layer and places his left hand on it, releasing streams of his ultimate ice soul power into it, which fuses with the ice and keeps making the temperature difference between inside and outside increasingly extreme. And the soul engineers inside have no idea because the ice has completely blocked their entire view. And 4 hours later, when both legions have fully recovered and are feeling optimistic, they decide to move out. And the moment they drop the main barrier, they realize an entire dome of ice has formed outside. And the soul engineers first look at it with a wow, like it's something interesting. But Zushin gives the order to break through it with soul rays and get. After which soul rays punch holes into the ice and sunlight becomes visible outside, but along with it, a minus 50-degree blast of chilly air rushes in so hard that the soul engineers feel like someone directly froze their souls, and their blood starts to freeze, and their movements go completely stiff, to which Xuancheng shouts for everyone to immediately get into the. And the moment he himself steps out first, Yuhao's ice explosion technique activates, and in the entire ice dome that he had carefully set up, one explosion after another goes off like someone lit a massive chain of firecrackers. But these firecrackers are at minus 50 degrees, and blocks of ice fly with explosive force, hitting the small linked defensive barriers of multiple soul engineers simultaneously. 40 soul engineers who were in the middle of trying to break out get scattered in that very blast, as if personally invited to the other side, and 3 more teams whose barriers shatter turn into ice statues in the minus 50-degree air, and those statues then crumble into dust, meaning in one single move, 70 soul engineers are gone. After which, those who survive fly upward with every ounce of strength they have, and once they reach 500 meters, the temperature goes back to normal. But when the count is done, barely half of the original 300 are left. And seeing all of this, Xuancheng's face becomes something worth seeing, and something that makes this hit even harder. Out of those 76 teams belong to his own evil eye tyrant Soul Engineer Legion, meaning 2/3 of his own legion has been wiped out in this single mission. And Zushin puts a hand on his shoulder and says that when they get back, reserve regiment members will be assigned to him. But Xuancheng knows that becoming a qualified member of a beast-ranked Soul Engineer Legion takes years of training, and a replacement won't come to. After which both legions begin their flight again with a strict, linked defensive barrier. And right then, a Soul Engineer reports that one of their comrades is severely injured and probably won't survive, to which Zushin walks over and checks on him and finds that one arm and one leg are broken, and his face is completely pale. And following military tradition, he places his hand on that Soul Engineer's forehead and says, "Comrade, rest in peace, and we will avenge you when we return." And the Soul Engineer closes his eyes in acceptance, and Zushin presses his forehead with very controlled force so he can go peacefully. But at that exact moment, the injured Soul Engineer presses his palm against Zushin's chest, which gives Zushin a sudden feeling of crisis, and he immediately activates both his automatic protective barrier and invincible barrier. After which a deep blue whirlpool appears on his chest, which is the direct power of Yuhao's ultimate Ice Second Soul Core. And both Zushin's Class 9 protective barrier and invincible barrier shatter in a single instant like tissue paper. And then from the center of that injured Soul Engineer's body, a terrifying spiritual blast explodes outward, and the Soul Engineers in the immediate vicinity immediately go flying, and the Vice Commanders are sent hurling away, and because of this, Xuancheng also gets sent dozens of meters away. And when everyone stabilizes, they see that Zushin's body crashes into the barrier with a boom and completely explodes, meaning Zushin, the commander of the Imperial Dragon Soul Engineer Legion and a prince of the Sun Moon Empire, is dead. And Yuhao and Tang Wutong emerge from inside the linked defensive barrier and reappear a few thousand meters away, where only the two of them can see. After which Xuancheng furiously screams, "That bastard's Holy Ghost Church, I will never let this go." And hearing this, Yuhao looks at Tang Wutong with a faint ironic smile, and Tang Wutong takes a long breath and says, "Yuhao, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable inside." To which Yuhao hugs her and says he knows, but this is war. And in war, if the enemy doesn't die, then we do. And he says that Juji was right, that he used to be too soft. But one thing is also true, that the techniques he used have only temporarily affected the Soul Engineers, and they'll recover on their own after some time. And then Tang Wutong says, "You're right." So Yuhao says that beating the Sun Moon Empire in an open fight isn't possible, which is why schemes and alternate strategies are the only path forward. And now let's head back to Dueling. After which, when both of them reach Dueling City, and when they arrive there, Yuhao is genuinely taken aback because Shu Sanshi, who is normally the most lighthearted guy among Shrek 7 monsters and is sometimes called Zhang Nanan's punching bag, has blood-red eyes, and his entire body is radiating a strong killing intent that makes him look like a completely different person. And Yuhao tells Shu Sanshi that more than half of both Soul Engineer Legions have been finished, and the commander of the Imperial Dragon Legion is dead, and the rest have fled. To which Shu Sanshi just says, "All." After which Yuhao goes over to Zhang Nanan and asks what happened to Shu Sanshi and what the situation is here, to which Zhang Nanan silences him with her eyes and then communicates spiritually that the situation is very bad. The Sun Moon Empire attacked at exactly the moment when the entire Dueling Empire Imperial family was gathered together, and a single Class 9 stationary soul cannon shell took them all out. And the royal family is almost entirely gone, and Shu Sanshi, who is normally so casual, happens to have Dueling Empire royal blood through his mother's side. So he had revealed his identity to stabilize the city. But watching his own blood relatives go like this is something incredibly heavy for him to carry. And with this, our episode ends right here. But in the next episode, an extremely emotional and a truly game-changing moment is coming. Because on one side, Yuhao is going to say something in front of the elders at Sea God's Pavilion that nobody saw coming. And on the other side, he's about to take a step that will leave the jaws of all of Shrek City on the floor. And if you want the next episode soon, make sure you let me know in the comments. And yes, not a lot. Just get 2,000 likes done on this video. And until then, bye-bye, take care.